Finally, it's election night. The votes are all in. Live from WWAY News Channel 3 studios, your voice, your vote team coverage is presented commercial-free by Perry's Emporium. I'm Alan Perry, and I want to thank you for watching.
Live, local, interactive, and in high definition. This is a special election night edition of WWAY News Channel 3 at 11. Your voice, your vote 2014. Brought to you commercial-free, exclusively by Perry's Emporium.
Commercial free. How about that? Thanks for joining us on this election night. I'm Daniel Siemens.
And I'm Mackenzie Henderson. The polls are closed and the ballots are still being counted.
Now, we still don't have all the results, but as the hours have been ticking by, we are getting a clearer picture on our next set of leaders.
For the next 40 minutes, we will bring you all the results that are in and hear from some of the evening's winners and losers, thanks to our reporters who are all over the map tonight.
And we will also bring you analysis to introduce you to our election experts. Here is WWAY News Director Kevin Wizzardo. Kev.
Thanks, guys. I am joined tonight by a pair of experts who will share their insights and opinions throughout the evening. From the left, UNCW Chancellor Emeritus Jim Lutze. He ran for state senate here in New Hanover County in 2010. He's also written a book, Welcome to North Carolina, Set Clock Back 100 Years, which explores the state's political history and impacts of modern political agendas. And from the right, political consultant and strategist Chad Adams, a former Lee County Commissioner and talk radio host here in Wilmington. Now, gentlemen, before we get to the results tonight, let's talk about briefly what was at stake. Chad, first of all, the big Senate race, not just important here in North Carolina.
Oh, absolutely. At the national level, it was a referendum on Harry Reid's leadership, certainly linked to the president's leadership. And we're seeing these midterm elections, which tend to be very difficult for the incumbent president, and this election seems to be the case as well.
Dr. Lutze, a lot of people had referenda to vote on, and it all had to do with education. As an educator, how important were these bonds and tax increases?
I'm just delighted to see the bonds. Surprised, I have to say, but I'm delighted to see the bonds pass. But not just the school bonds, but the road bonds, because infrastructure is so important to the economic development of this region. So.
Chad, the film industry was a big factor in a couple of races around here. Were they enough, do you think, to make a difference?
No. I mean, it's one of these things like fracking in central North Carolina and down here with the film incentives. It's a localized issue that doesn't translate to votes in many places, and it did not here. It didn't affect the outcome in any of the House or Senate races locally, the North Carolina House and Senate races, but it is an important, critical issue down here, and it's not going away anytime soon. It'll still be debated. It's still going to be an issue brought up.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll have much more throughout the night. Time to get to the action, so let's go back over to Mackenzie and Daniel.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Well, without a doubt, the biggest race in North Carolina this election was for U.S. Senate.
Incumbent Kay Hagan and challenger Thom Tillis ran the most expensive race in the U.S. Hagan, a Democrat, wrapping up her first term. Tillis, a Republican Speaker of the House. Sean Hall, a Libertarian and pizza delivery driver, as of right now, with 95% reporting Thom Tillis in the lead, a narrow lead, but in the lead nonetheless with 49% of the vote. Kay Hagan at 47% and Sean Hall at 4%. For nearly 2 decades, Mike McIntyre has represented southeastern North Carolina in Congress.
But early this year, he announced his retirement, which left his 7th district seat up for grabs.
Now, 2 years ago, Republican David Rouser narrowly lost to McIntyre in a race that came down to a recount, and now, second time's a charm. Rouser has won. Rouser had a huge fundraising advantage at the end of last quarter. He had about $1.5 million. Barfield and Castine combined for about $72,000.
WWAY senior reporter Alyssa Rosenberg has spent the evening at Rouser's headquarters in Johnston County. She joins us live with reaction from the party. Alyssa.
Well, Fran, the party is pretty much over.
Guys, it is a big day out here. For the first time since 1871, a Republican will represent the U.S. House District 7. David Rouser beat out Democrat Jonathan Barfield and Libertarian Wesley Castine. He says he has many goals for the future, but for right now, he says he is just glad he is done campaigning.
No, I'm exhausted, quite honestly. No, it feels great. This has been a long journey. A lot of people have worked very hard, worked for a long time. A lot of people have prayed very hard. This is a great night for a lot of people all throughout the district.
Rouser says he wants to bring America back to God and common sense. The first item on his agenda, energy, he says. He also hopes to tackle regulations that make it hard to do business. Now, as you guys can see here, the party is just starting to die down as friends, family, and supporters head on home. Live in Johnston County, Alyssa Rosenberg, WWAY News Channel 3.
Well, thank you, Alyssa. This is the second election that much of our area has been part of the 3rd Congressional District, where Walter Jones has held the seat for 2 decades now, and he's going to continue to hold on to that seat. A strong victory for Walter Jones at 68% of the vote. This race is over.
Okay, so what do Ruben Studdard, Arsenio Hall, and Congresswoman Renee Elmers have in common? They've all beaten Clay Aiken. He's coming in second yet again in another contest. It was the race for Elmer's 2nd District U.S. House seat outside of Raleigh, the Republican holding that seat for a 3rd term, coming in with 59% of the vote. So, what does all this mean? Time to check in with our team of political experts with WWAY News Director Kevin Wizzardo. Kevin.
Thanks, Mackenzie. Again, joined by a pair of experts, political strategist and consultant and former Lee County Commissioner Chad Adams, and UNCW Chancellor Emeritus and former State Senate candidate Jim Lutzy. Gentlemen, let's talk first about the U.S. Senate race. Tom Tillis up by 2 points with 95% of the vote in. It has to be within 1 for a recount. Is this one all but over?
I would say so. I mean, this was, we've seen this one go down to the wire, and certainly early voting, the numbers weren't quite what the Democrats needed to get that early vote lead like they did in 2010, or 2008 rather. So now what we're seeing is the result of this hard-fought race. I mean, and Tillis looks like he's going to prevail.
I'm not ready to give up yet on that one, to tell you the truth. We always knew it was going to be close, and so it is close, and I think we need to wait until the final vote count is in. I would not be surprised to see it go to a runoff.
If it does, though, come down to Speaker Tillis winning, Dr. Lutzy, how surprised are you, given the fact that he had become so widely unpopular among a lot of people for what just happened in the legislative session?
This was not a Democratic year. Obama was a real drag on the ticket. And I think that the Republican Party used his unpopularity very effectively. And Tillis did not run against Kay Hagan as much as he ran against Barack Obama. And Kay Hagan's relationship with Obama. So I'm not really shocked. I knew it was going to be close.
In the 7th District House race, David Rouser looks like the easy winner there tonight. Mike McIntyre has served this area for so many years. Does anything concern you now with the change in leadership in that seat?
I view Mike McIntyre as more of this area than I do David Rouser. In other words, Mike McIntyre paid a lot of attention to the beaches. He paid a lot of attention to southeastern North Carolina. I'm not sure that Rouser is going to have that same emphasis. I think he's going to be more nearly drawn toward the center of the state than he is to our part of the state. But that remains to be seen, and it remains to be seen what Mike McIntyre is going to do next.
Chad, what do you think about David Rouser and what he'll bring to the table in Congress?
Well, I think what you saw with McIntyre is someone who appealed to many Southern conservative Democrats and some Republicans. He's from Robeson County, so it wasn't like he was from this area. And I think the comment that Chancellor Lutzy made with respect to Rouser, he's spending a lot more time down here. He has to, in order to hold that seat, he's going to have to be able to translate not just Johnston County issues, but he's going to have to be able to interpret what's going on down here and be effective, or this district could easily turn him out. I think he's going to do that rather well.
First time a Republican has held the seat since 1871. That's a pretty long time. Is that just because of the gerrymandering, or
those are different Republicans? I want to make the point that these are not the same Republicans that were Republicans at that time.
Well, you know, you've been right. You've just wrote a book about the political history and the way things are progressing. Based on the results you've seen tonight, what's your take on where we're going for the next at least 2 years?
Well, I wrote the book saying that we seem to be going back 100 years. It appears that we like living in the past, would be one of my comments, and that people are not as concerned about some of these developments as you would expect. But I never expected it to happen in 2014. I think it'll be 2016, 2020 before we'll see a real referendum on the policies that the current incumbents have put into place.
Chad, quickly.
Well, I think that what we're seeing is, I somewhat disagree. The issues are the same and different in many ways. I mean, we're in a post-welfare world that we didn't have 100 years ago. Spending is very different than it was 100 years ago, but we are looking forward. The issues of the day will still be challenging. Left and right will still compete and battle for those issues in those arenas.
All right, much more still to come. Let's get back over to Daniel McKenzie.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Well, time now to get local, starting right here in New Hanover County.
Yeah, with Brian Berger and Tom Wolf not seeking re-election, there were 2 seats on the county commission up for grabs tonight. 4 candidates, 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, in it to win it. Only 2 go home the winner, and as you can see, wow, it is neck and neck all the way across. 28% as of right now, with 93% reporting coming in for Skip Watkins, then Derek Hickey making a move at 25%, but right behind them, Rob Zappel and Patricia Spears. So this is going to be a close one.
So Good Morning Carolina anchor Sarah Murphy is working the late shift with reaction from the candidates in that race. Sarah.
Hey there, Mackenzie. We've been out here at the New Hanover County Government Center since about 7:15 this morning, so just 15 minutes before the polls closed this evening. And as you can see behind me, the crowd has dwindled out as the numbers have started to come in. It looks like we just have Patricia Spear, Skip Watkins, and Rob Zappel still waiting in these results. Now, at last check, we have 41 out of the 43 precincts are reporting, and it looks like Skip Watkins is leading for the New Hanover County Commission seat. There are 2 seats up for grabs, and when I spoke with Rob and Skip earlier, this is what they had to say.
I'm humbled. I'm a little emotional right now, but I just appreciate the people that voted for us, and even though maybe all of them didn't vote for me, I will represent all of them. And I'll try to do my best to live up to their faith and trust.
Very optimistic, and I think we've got a long evening in front of us until all the precincts are reported. We won't know all of it, but I feel good, and we're looking forward to the full results coming in.
Now, Skip says if he wins tomorrow, he is just going to be so emotional and so excited. Rob says the first thing he's going to do if he gets the victory tonight is kiss his wife. What a sweet husband, right? But he and Derek Hickey are neck and neck, so we'll have to wait and see and wait those final numbers. You can stay with us at WWAYTV3.com for all the latest results. For now, we're live in New Hanover County. Sarah Murphy, WWAY News Channel 3. Back to you guys.
All right, thank you, Sarah. New Hanover County Schools asked voters to approve $160 million in bond money for technology and other capital improvements. And as you can see, it's been called yes. New Hanover County schools are getting that bond money, 63% of the voting population saying yes.
Well, there were 7 candidates on the ballot for 4 spots for New Hanover County Board of Education, including 3 Republican incumbents. They all supported that school bond. All 3 incumbents came into the election with decades of experience on the board. Then there were some newbies. All but one has extensive experience in the school. So did the voters want experience, tenure, or fresh ideas? Let's look at the results coming in with 93% of the precincts reporting. Looks like we've got our 3 incumbents up there in the top 4. Janice Kavanaugh coming in with 16. Bruce Schell is a newbie, but he is a Republican, coming with 15. Don Hayes, 15%. Ed Higgins with 14%. But of course, the 3 Democrats on the bottom, they are all neck and neck, so very, very hard to see where this will go tonight. In addition to the school bond, voters in the city limits of Wilmington were also asked to spend some money. The city wanted $44 million for roads, sidewalks, crosswalks. This one, not called yet, but 65% say that they do want to spend that money. All right, so back to our election night analyst and WWAY's Kevin Wizzardo. Kevin.
All right, thank you, Mackenzie. Let's go ahead and say the transportation bond's going to pass.
You feel comfortable with that?
We haven't put a check mark on there, but we'll go ahead and call it right now. But we talked a little bit before. This is really big for the schools around here.
I think so, particularly, and I'll have to get my line in, I've been particularly upset about the cuts in education that have been coming down from Raleigh. Now, of course, a lot of those pass down to the county. The county has to find a way to make up for that money. But I'm glad to see that the people in New Hanover County are still strongly supporting their school system.
Chad, does it surprise you that the bonds have passed overwhelmingly, but also a Republican majority remains on the school board?
Not at all. I mean, those are not mutually exclusive. I mean, what you've seen here is bond referendums without organized opposition. do tend to pass. I mean, people don't connect bonds with tax increases. When they do, they tend to struggle a bit more. So the tax increases that will be a part of these bonds, has yet to materialize, but it is coming. So yes, schools are necessary. That's part of what government does. It's part of our Constitution for the free and open education, free and open here public education. But I will disagree with Lucy that the education budget increased. I mean, it has increased. It just has.
It has, but the number of students has increased also.
It has increased.
So we are now
$1 billion
46 in the country in terms of student per pupil spending.
That depends on which numbers you're looking at, and you have to include capital and some other things too. But it's
$1
$1 billion.
Your own opinion, but not your own facts.
I agree, and you can't say that it hadn't increased $1 billion
let's talk
in
about,
2
you
years.
mentioned capital. One thing, a few years ago, the lottery was supposed to give a big chunk of money to capital projects. The allocation has been changed for that.
It's going to save schools, remember?
So, right, but this makes the bond even more important, right?
Well, I never favored the lottery as a way for paying for your schools. I think we ought to appropriate the money for our schools, not pay for it with gambling.
All right. We'll have much more opinion on these issues and much more throughout the evening. Daniel and Mackenzie, back over to you.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Much more still to come on the special commercial-free election night edition of WWAY News Channel 3 at 11.
Including another big race in New Hanover County. Could the sheriff keep his office? It was also a question in 3 other area counties.
And we will next take a look at state house and Senate races. But first, more results from around the area.